Fallout London is a mod for Fallout 4. It was supposed to come out earlier, until Bethesda decided to introduce a high-res texture pack, which apparently broke the game. I don't know anything about this, because I use GOG, which lets you download the pre-fucked version of Fallout 4, which is nice. They were also generous enough to provide an installer for Fallout London, which lets you circumvent the usual headache you get from the mod manager. To get it out of the way, I think Fallout 4 is a bad game, that I have spent an absurd amount of time playing. They might have improved the FPS aspect of the game quite a bit, but the characters are two-dimensional, the factions make no sense, the writing sucks, and the progression system is really dull. The worst part of the game is that it takes a while to realize this. Maybe because of the expectations set by the previous game.
I've had word from a settlement asking for help.
Oh, fuck off, Preston. Fallout London fixes a few of these things. It's not perfect by any means. After all, it's still built on the bones of Fallout 4, so the systems are still intact. Which is convenient for me, because it means that if something is good, I can praise the mod. And if it's bad, I can just blame Fallout 4. Fallout London begins in a test tube. Your character emerges from some kind of lab with no memories and a few bad injuries. It's also kind of creepy. The game almost leans towards horror in the early stages. Fallout London uses the Fallout 4 special system, so if you're going to play this, look at the perk chart before you make a character. I really don't like this system, because if you're going in blind, it's really easy to make a character you don't want. I'm going to play stealth, because if Fallout 4 is any indication, combat's going to be a little dull, and stealth adds some variety. Not much, but, some. After being freed from the tube and exploring the lab, you find the game's equivalent of the Pip-Boy, which is a wrist computer device usually seen in Fallout. But instead of getting that, you get the Attaboy, a reverse-engineered Pip-Boy that's slightly more British. Because it's not made by Vault-Tec, the icon animations are a little different, with a drier sense of humor. Some of these are incredibly charming. By reading the computer logs, it's confirmed that the story takes place in the Fallout universe, but instead of vaults, it's pinders. Instead of mole rats, it's rad shrews. The currency is tickets, not bottle caps. Instead of America, it's, London, obviously. The mod seems to have some performance issues. Some load times are really fucking long, and I couldn't figure out if the game looked high-res or just really pixelated in some areas. Eventually, I realized that sometimes the select few textures just wouldn't load properly. So you're going to see some footage that looks good, and then kind of shitty. The solution was to reboot the game. I still have no idea what triggers the bug, and I'm upset that I can't blame it on Fallout 4. Or at least I don't think I can. No. Wait, never mind, it's here too. The first group you run into are the Vagabonds, led by Sebastian Gaunt, a stern gangster who comes with an offer. And a knife. Because of course he does. I accept the knife, because I'm Australian, and that's just what we do.
That's a knife.
In Fallout 4, the dialogue options are a complete farce. Most of the time your options are yes, sarcastic yes, aggressive yes, and yes, but give me more money. Fallout London has skill-based dialogue checks, and for the most part, much better speech options when it comes to moment-to-moment dialogue. Sebastian also christens you as the Wayfarer.
Looks like you're the Wayfarer now, like the rest of us.
Which follows a serious tradition of giving the protagonist a nickname. Speaking to Sebastian is a little overwhelming. He and the gang are well written, and they do a great job establishing the Vagabonds and all their individual personalities. The problem comes when you get the option to ask about every single faction in the game, and there are a lot of them.
First up, there's us. We're the Vagabonds. Used to be big names in South London. The cunts who made things go awry are the Isle of Dogs Syndicate. There's a fucking lot of them, and they all walk around with the gentry rule from their ivory towers, pissing off their pedestals from Westminster. Forget trying, because they've got the Tommies to defend them. Powerful enough to take the peace, too stupid to keep it. Which means Camelot, the only Tin Man Knights in Wandsworth. Or if you fancy painting it black, you've the Fifth Column Tyrants in Tower Hamlets. Hooligans that'll smack you, beefeaters that'll eat you, jack tars who'll stick a cannon up your arse, roundels in Hackney, Miller's men are the slapheads over in Islington. Neighbouring next to them are the pistols in Camden who want anarchy in the UK. All of that makes sense.
Some of them take a while to be introduced, but for now, let's just keep in mind that the Vagabonds, good? Kind of. The Isle of Dogs, bad. The gentry are the ruling class of London, and they support the Isle of Dogs. So they're bad. Very, very bad. After the conversation, we level up. You still get perks every level. Some of them are Fallout New Vegas perks, which significantly change your gameplay. Unfortunately, the vast majority of them are Fallout 4 perks that give you a flat bonus to damage, crafting, armor, or health, which sucks. So after we meet the Vagabonds, we do some side quest for them. They're pretty interesting cats. Blind Nelson does intel for them, despite being blind, and despite being a real piece of shit.
Oh no, did baby have a hard time with their Tinker toys? Why didn't you say so?
Johnny Shrapnel has a shard of metal stuck in his head. Johnny is a bit of a hothead, who finds himself in trouble with his own group.
Mickey's been having a barney at me for blowing up his hat. And yes, I did blow up his hat. And don't you mind how or why. But at the end of the day, it's just some damn cloth, right?
Sid explores his childhood trauma as he learns how to read and write. The grammatical structure of his stories improve as he comes to terms with his past. Good stuff. The Vagabond leader, Sebastian, is headstrong, ruthless, and pragmatic to a fault. In fact, the later quests for the Vagabonds have the group clash with his leadership style, and depending on what you do, some members end up leaving the group. I think it's fair to compare the Vagabonds to the Minutemen, the tutorial faction from Fallout 4, who are represented by one character, Preston Garvey. A character who might as well just be a message board because of how unbelievably dull he is. His nothingness is so fascinating to me that I've thought about doing a video on just him. I still might.
Do you think you could go help out the settlement?
During the Vagabond side quests, you eventually run into a workbench, which reveals that we're using the crafting system from Fallout 4. Oh boy. You might just see this as some cool mechanic, but I think we have a problem. Fallout 4 begins in Sanctuary, a settlement for the player to store all their stuff and create their own town. What ends up happening is the player is encouraged to leave all their junk inside Sanctuary, so that they have materials for crafting. What is junk? That's a good question. Junk refers to the materials used to craft weapon mods, armor mods, and consumables, which can be steel, plastic, wood, ballistic fiber, cork, glass. The problem with junk is that you have a limited carry weight, so what ends up happening is the character gets over-encumbered, and then starts walking really slow. So you leave the building, get a loading screen, fast travel back to Sanctuary, wait for the loading screen, dump all your shit, fast travel back to where you were, wait for another loading screen, re-enter the building where you once were, and sit through another loading screen. Oh, you don't have enough adhesive? I know you don't. You never did. Now go back 8 loading screens and go get some more. Not only are we using this crafting system with junk, the game doesn't give you a settlement from the start, which it probably should have. So I just looked it up, and as it turns out, there are settlements. But you kind of have to go out of your way to get to them. If you play this mod, you need to do this. Trust me. The settlement system is back from Fallout 4, and it's broken. Settlers sometimes don't do the task you give them. Recapturing settlements doesn't work. Settlement shops will bug out. Settlements just...
Do you think you could go help out the
Oh,
settlement?
shut the fuck up. Maybe it's just as broken as it is in Fallout 4. I don't remember. I know people like the crafting system in Fallout 4, but I think it's pretty shallow. You make your guns do more damage, give them a scope, or don't. Then put a suppressor on them. Or don't. That's the full experience. Fallout London does a slightly better job with the crafting system. Some weapons do become unique after applying mods. For example, you can chamber this revolver with shotgun shells, which doesn't sound like much, but if you're doing a pistol-only run, this opens up a new ammo type, which is a lifesaver. Armor works pretty much the same way. You're going to end up wearing bits of armor on all your limbs and some fatigues with ballistic weave. I didn't find any usable power armor, but I'm guessing it's somewhere in this game. When you're not busy being stuck in crafting menus and perk charts, exploring London, you'll run into all kinds of weird stuff. Dryads protecting a forest, Thamesfolk, a race of humanoids who have mutated into fish people,
What brought you to Thameshaven, outsider?
a faction masquerading as knights in old armor,
The ultimate hidden truth of the world is that it is something that we make.
a bunch of old Navy cosplayers with old-timey weapons, giant leeches. That's fucking disgusting. The level of detail is kind of insane, considering it's a passion project overhaul mod that is completely free.
So, tourist, as you wander through these historic halls, let the echoes of the past guide your steps, and immerse yourself in the rich history of this remarkable place.
So, after we get out of the test tube, the Wayfarer has an important question that needs answering.
Who am I? What am I?
Working for the Vagabonds, we find out that we escaped from an Angel research lab. Think of Angel as a nefarious research group that might as well be a myth according to the average Wastelander. Similar to the Institute in Fallout 4, only it's not as dumb.
So stupid.
We chase up various leads, meet some fishmen, help them out with a leech infestation, find a young orphan who leads us to a church, and so on. After chasing the trail of Smythe, the guy who spoke to us on the screen, and the Angel organization, we find another secret lab that has a horrific experiment. We help out the Tommies, the main military faction of London, who serve the Queen, who according to this wiki page is still alive, and a ghoul. I must have missed that side quest. We help the Tommies in exchange for a gas mask, to find another lab and more clues.
Commencing scan. Welcome back, Agent. You want answers. I know you do. And you will get them. Let it be known, when we meet at the Palace of Westminster, all will be revealed.
This leads us to Westminster, which I guess is the equivalent of reaching New Vegas in New Vegas. Westminster is immaculate, especially compared to the rest of London. The class divide is dramatic, to say the least. Westminster is ruled by the gentry, a faction that appears to be democratic, but after some sleuthing, you'll find that they are not quite for the people. Bunch of fucking bureaucrats. We need to get into Parliament, but we need signatures from leaders of Camden, Islington, Hackney, and Lambeth. Basically just do a bunch of favours for faction leaders. At this point, the game's bugs and issues are starting to show, and they're not pretty. The load times are pretty rough. But to be fair, I just played through a fresh install of Fallout 4, and it turns out they're just as bad. Look, I'm not going to pretend I know what any of this means, but if I can run Elden Ring without issues, it should not take this long to load. The loot tables are kind of fucked. There's a chance you get a legendary weapon that appears in Fallout 4, but not usually in this game. Which is a problem, because the ammo it uses doesn't appear in the game. In terms of level design, I think Bethesda are pretty good at it. Fallout 4's map design is interesting, and the locations seem to be tailor-made for firefights. Finding where you need to go is usually not a problem, and the environmental storytelling is not bad. Fallout London's map design is a bit of a mess. You'll run into invisible barriers, and honestly unintuitive level design at times. I had spent hours retracing areas just to find an entrance to one location. Huh? And sometimes I would just crack and use console commands to fly inside the geometry, just so I could find a door. During one particular quest, the pathing for some of the NPCs broke. So once again I used console commands to set the quest to complete. The problem is that I needed a signature from one of those NPCs, and since the game didn't know what the end state of the quest was, I couldn't get it. Luckily there's an alternative route where you just forge the signature, thank God. The game's starting to get a little rough, and we're not out of the woods just yet. But to its credit, there are moments of brilliance. During the signature quest, you run into a dying man who asks for a simple favor, and I don't think I can do this quest justice.
Something I need you to do, but it isn't very pleasant. As you can see, I haven't much time left in this world before I move on to the next. And I'd like to make that journey with someone, the love of my life, Jane. I lost her many years ago, but her soul, it isn't at rest. We were traveling through Newham together, got separated. She was delirious when I found her. She must have fallen into the marina. I need you to go there and put her soul to rest.
Simple premise, incredible voice acting, it's just a real masterclass in show don't tell. So we fulfill John's dying request. After getting all the signatures, we're invited into Parliament, but it's a trap.
You're finally awake. Your determination is impressive. All those signatures. So little time. Get out of here. Go to the Old Science Museum in Kensington.
Get me a bobby pin, and I'll perform a fucking miracle. Here and now. Almost. Voila!
During our escape, we get into contact with one of Smythe's opponents, Mr. X, who has the idea to blow up Smythe during a Renaissance fair. Which we do, despite the toll on the innocent, but it doesn't work. So, at this point, we're given a choice of 3 factions to side with. And if this feels like it's coming out of nowhere, it's because it is.
Number 1!
We can decide to go with the Angels, which seems like an odd choice, but after beating the game, I think it might have been the most interesting choice. At this point, we've spoken to their leader, explored their labs, read their terminals, and even run into their handiwork. So we have a vague idea of what they're about. Clandestine bullshit, probably. Safe to say that you just throw your ethics right out the fucking window.
Number
2.
We can side with the 5th column. Who? That is a pertinent question. We fought against them briefly during a side quest, I think. And at the Renaissance Fair, they had a robot shilling for them. But other than that, I have no idea who they are. As it turns out, or at least according to that wiki page, the 5th column is a rebellion who want to overthrow the gentry. Which sounds good, but apparently they might be a little fascist. They all answer to Eve Varney, their worshipped dictator. I think it's supposed to be Fallout London's version of Caesar's Legion, but it falls a bit short of that.
Number
3.
We can join Camelot. And to be honest, I decided to join them because my character is a generic good guy. And I was also kind of hoping for some Monty Python jokes.
Merely a flesh wound.
Camelot stands for the greater good.
Shut it!
They're led by Arthur, obviously. And they want to overthrow the gentry and maybe not be so shitty about it. Equality for all. They even have a round table. And you get a sweet new nickname.
As you accept this honor, I rechristen you with your heraldic name, Gaheris. Arise, Sir Gaheris, and join us as we prepare to battle for Camelot's soul.
They have the same issue that the 5th column have. I literally only interacted with them once. They were setting up the entertainment in the form of a jousting competition. So you can pick their brains a little, but it's not exactly a strong intro for this faction. And honestly, I don't think they're all that interesting. So, after the bombing mission goes south, we work to help Camelot overthrow the gentry. So that we can confront Smythe and get an answer to the question.
Who am I?
We get the chance to storm Westminster. With a fucking trebuchet, no less. Inside of Buckingham Palace, we arrive at the truth. Now, I know my character's wearing headgear, but that's my face. Every single one. I am Smythe. And so is everybody in this room. To be more specific, we're all clones of Smythe. The House of Commons is full of Smythes. Fucking bureaucrats.
Who here isn't privy to the exploits of the Right Honourable Smythe in the opposition? The idea that Camelot could succeed without one of our own is inconceivable.
Punishment. Death.
When confronted, the leader, Smythe, tells us how and why this happened. Now we have context for the player's actions. You're being tested. And in a way, you pass. Because your character will always make it to the top of someone's hierarchy. Or even their own.
Yes. You were to be my replacement before this sorry state of affairs, had you completed conditioning. A clone of a clone of a clone, etc. If you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. A world of Smythe, shaped by Smythe. That's what I believe in. I spent the last few years writing letters about the coming war. To the Prime Minister, the Cabinet, the Opposition, the President, everyone.
They were all ignored. You brought an end to my world. Now I shall bring an end to yours.
There can be only one. Yeah, or like several dozen, I think. We fight to the death inside of the Tower of London, using bladed umbrellas. Then we have a choice to finish him off or let him go. After that, we get the obligatory ending slides we always get, and that's the end. And that's Fallout London. By far the best overhaul mod I've played of any Fallout game. Definitely has problems. Some from Fallout 4, the others unique to the mod itself, but overall pretty good. I'd recommend it. Especially if you like Fallout 4. Which I don't. It occurs to me that...
He's basically native at this point anyway.
Hold on.
Sir Henry Simerson. He's the political officer.
Is that a sharp reference?
Can't be.
No fucking way.
Major Lennox was answered. Major Lennox answered with his life, as you should have done if you had any sense.